speaking of the economic calendar last week, obviously it was a short week because it was Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Um, it was interesting to see that we had so many events that were happening at the same time that we were going into a short week. The thing that we were all waiting for were FOMC minutes, which was which was a very interesting FOMC minutes release. One of the things that if you were watching CNBC or Bloomberg, when they gave out the minutes, one of the things that very much so got highlighted was the fact that everyone was thinking, all the Fed presidents were thinking about the possibilities of slowing down rate cuts. They do see another December rate cut happening, but then one of the thing that shocked everyone was that everyone felt that they weren't too sure what was going to happen come March, and that's when that one sentence was read, that there was uncertainty as if there would be rate cuts past March. The market pushed down pretty violently. Um, and then it immediately bounced and it just went crazy. But the fact that the Fed presidents are kind of already saying that come March, they're not too sure what's going to happen, is sending a little bit of shockwaves towards into the market and towards the sentiment that a lot of the bigger traders are having, because everyone's thinking that the Fed's going to cut, but maybe that's just not the case. And the reason that the Fed might stop cutting is because if you keep paying attention to what's happening with jobless claims are not going through the roof. They're maintaining and they're hitting expectations. So it seems like the economy is slow and steady. The labor market is slow and steady maintaining, and it's not getting whacked. Um, and personal consumption seems to be in line. So what's the point of cutting rates if everything seems to be fine with where rates are at right now? Going into it, I mean, to be quite frank, the only thing that really mattered were the FOMC minutes, and then of course on the 27th, we had a lot of data that came out. We had pending home sales, we had crude oil inventories, we had Chicago PMI, which was a big miss. And of course, as I had mentioned, we did have unemployment claims. We were expecting 215, but we hit 213. So actually, the claims came in lower. One of the things I was talking about, though, despite the unemployment claims that keep coming in a little bit lower in line, are the continuing claims. The continuing claims continue to go up, which means that people that are currently unemployed are not having as much success when it comes to getting back into the job market. I'm sorry, back to the employment side of the number. So it seems like there's a bit of a hesitation from companies to hire. So we're gonna have to see what happens going into the upcoming week, right? Because going into next week, we are going to have a couple of important things that we're going to have to pay attention to. One of them primarily being ISM manufacturing prices. That's a number that everyone's going to be looking at, the ISM manufacturing PMI. And everybody needs to pay attention very closely to the European unemployment rate, which is coming out on December 2nd. That's a 5 a.m. number. I'm very curious to see if the European unemployment numbers do start to tick up. As most of you do know that are here, I used to live in Europe for about 8 years. And I was there through a booming market in the Netherlands where it was an incredible time to live there. Everybody was making money. The Dutch stock market was flying. But now everything seems to have been slowing down. And I've always said that the Dutch and the Germans are a key indication to what's happening in the rest of Europe. And it's a leading indicator to potential ramifications in America. So something to keep an eye on. Of course, December 3rd, we have a couple of Fed speakers. December 4th, we have Powell speaking at 1:45, so you might want to mark your calendars for that. That's December 4th at 1:45 Eastern Standard Time. I have absolutely no idea what he's going to be talking about, but he will be speaking. And then, of course, on Thursday, we have unemployment claims once again, the number that everybody's going to be watching. And then, of course, going into Friday, we have a couple of Fed speakers, and we have my favorite number, which is the University of Michigan sentiment. We're going to keep a close eye on that. As everyone knows, University of Michigan sentiment is my favorite economic gauge, and I'm very curious how that read is going to be, especially going into what we call the rah 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 Christmas rally. So keep those things in mind. Of course, you can always get all of the latest information of what's going to be coming data wise for the upcoming weeks at two separate websites. One of them is Forex Factory. Kevin, I don't know if you mind opening up Google really quick. You can go to forexfactory.com. You guys want to write down that website? It gives you, yeah, Forex Factory. It gives you pretty much all the important information when you click on calendar. Well, actually, you can just click on the day. Yeah, there you go. It gives you all the important information of what's coming up. And if you want even more detailed information, you can go to financialjuice.com, and Financial Juice actually gives you even more information. That one actually gives you all of the data that's going to be coming out, including the bond auctions, which I follow very closely. And this is a great website as well that provides you with up-to-date news. Like if there's any type of headliner news that's going to come out, it literally prints it right there on that little side screen next to the what's it called? Next to the place where Kevin is moving his mouse up and down. So those two websites are very beneficial for you. They're both free, and feel free to use them as needed. So Kevin, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, so right now, since we went over the market and everything, in terms of what we have to look at, we're just gonna move over to we're gonna have a very quick overview of what is going on with SPY and QQQ, just so we could see where we are at on the daily charts. But by the way, JP, just to make sure you can hear me fine, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Um, you know, it's there's one thing for sure. We all know this. I mean, Nvidia had earnings last week or the week before. No, 2 weeks before. Yeah, and that was the whole news. That's what was like. Hey, is the market still going and stuff like that. And I've made my opinion very clear. I'm a permanent bull trader, but I don't like when a weight of one stock determines the rest of the market's health, and that unfortunately is the situation Nvidia's in. So you of course you can look at ES, you can look at Nasdaq, but one thing you always unfortunately have to keep an eye on is Nvidia. As unfortunate as it is, the truth, you do have to keep an eye on Nvidia because that can kind of give a foreshadowing of what might happen, right? If, for example, the only time we don't have to really focus on Nvidia is if the other major tech companies, like let's say Meta, Netflix, Google, Microsoft. I mean, Netflix and Meta have been doing a great job, but Google and Microsoft had to kind of pick it up, right? You guys have recently saw actually on Friday itself, we got into Apple calls, and Apple's actually making a little bit of headway now, possibly pushing into. Did it reach all time highs? Yeah, it did reach all time highs when we took the trade. So, Apple reached all time highs on Friday itself. It wasn't like a big news because it wasn't like so much higher than the previous all-time high. But the reason I took the calls, I see upside personally for Apple, which is good because then if the other tech stocks kind of start pulling their weight, and I'll show you really quickly here, we could go over to Google. You can see, it's not really as as bullish as, let's say, Nvidia, right? And if I go to Microsoft, it's a little bit better than Google, but it's just been ranging. So if these two tech stocks along with Apple, and Netflix has been fairly bullish as well, if I go over to it, if these tech stocks start pulling their weight, then what that will do, in my opinion, is allow Nvidia to be able to cool off in price for a little bit, right? I know some people here might have shares of Nvidia, but in my opinion, like I have shares of Nvidia as well, and I have like an average of 90 something dollars. I think it was 91 and 37 cents. the the most important thing for me is allowing a healthy cool off, because if it just keeps on shooting up, then the ride down will be a lot more catastrophic than anyone would want it, right? And that's just not going to affect Nvidia shareholders, right? It's going to be affecting all of Nasdaq. If the other tech stocks aren't pulling their weight, then Nasdaq will definitely go down. So if the other tech stocks pull their weight and Nvidia has a small cool off, I think it'll be really great. Um, I would love to add more shares if Nvidia came down to 119.15. But I'm personally not looking at Nvidia too much when it comes to long terms or even options, just because it's a little bit too focused, and I don't like looking at things that are too focused. You guys obviously know Friday, Meta Friday. It's what I do. I love Meta. Meta is doing amazing in my opinion. There has been a lot of chop that we had, the past month, or yeah, month I would say, with Meta, but at least it's holding this level of 554.84. If it could keep pushing up, honestly, Friday looked like a day would end up bullish, but it kind of ended up a little bit subpar. So I'd love to see this make some highs, especially if we could push above, this general area around 591. If we could push above here, Meta can easily test $600 and onwards. That's what I'm thinking. It does have a lot of trouble in this area, so the push up here has to be strong, right? That's what you would want for Meta. And now heading over to the current swings that we have, I'm going to leave RTX for JP because that was actually JP's trade that I rode with. But for Tesla, I mean, you guys, if you guys have known me for a while, before Meta Friday, it was always Tesla Friday, and Tesla had some of the most amazing zero DTE contracts until it became the time range, around this area where it just was just too choppy. The ranges were too small compared to the prior price action, and it just wasn't really going anywhere, right? So that's why I started trading Meta, and that's why it just really ended up being Meta Friday instead of Meta Tesla Friday. But obviously, we know since Trump has won presidency, Elon Musk has been riding his back, so we're seeing a huge surge in price for Tesla. Now, it's funny because in the beginning of the year, uh, I kept on saying as a joke, not even as a joke, I kept on saying like Tesla can easily hit 400 or $390 by the end of the year, and lo and behold, we're so close to hitting 380. I personally think I personally think we hit 380 by the end of the year. I don't think we hit 400. I believe there'll just be a lot of selling pressure once we reach around the 380, 390 area. But I think next year, I think Tesla can see 400. And I personally have shares. I've been holding them for a very long time now. I have leaps, or those are massively up as well. But I got these calls on Friday, which you guys saw, because we had a really nice candle on Friday. Before Friday, as you guys have been, for those who've been here, the prior live sessions that we've had, one thing you guys always hear me talking about is price, 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 right? And how the candles, each candle, it looks, especially the current one versus the previous one, right? Because the way I'm not a very smart person, so I got to make things very simple for me, and that's how I've excelled in my experience when it's come to trading. So the way I did that for price action is by just simply making myself understand what's going on. And price is nothing but looking at, uh, I guess you could say it's like tape reading, right? You see what exactly is going on. You see where exactly buyers and sellers are present. And one very simple thing, just looking at this chart on Friday, what I loved seeing is, on Thursday, we had a decent wick to the downside. What this represents, even though it was a bearish candle, was that the buyers were strong enough on a very bearish day to at least push the price significantly higher than what the low of that day was. So that's a very bullish indication for me. Another bullish thing, obviously, we held the 309.27 level. I don't know if this was a previous level. So we held that level, which was bullish. That's when I actually personally entered shares. So for these calls, we had a decent Thursday, and then Friday, we had a little wick to the downside, which represents that sellers were present, which is a good thing. But the fact that the buyers were way more stronger, I know that's probably grammatically incorrect to say that sentence, even though they were way stronger, um, the sellers were there, but the buyers just pushed right through them. So that's why I got the calls. I personally want to see Tesla testing like 352 and onwards next week, because this can make a leg up to 370. But that's why I took Tesla. And again, for Apple, very simple. A lot of people keep on saying, "Oh, Bishop, what are you doing? You're taking Apple calls. It's Apple calls. Apple keeps on rejecting around 235.92. It's going to be a triple top." But I mean, hey, that's why 90% of the people who trade are not successful, right? You got to make use of the situations that are presented to you. And yes, you did have a very um what's it called, JP? My mind's blanking. You had a very indecisive Thursday, but following Thursday, you had a really nice Friday. Um, what's one great thing is you guys know I usually try entering swings in the end of the day. There's a huge reason for that. It's not like laziness or anything. It's just because I really like getting my entries on point. So I have a very high win rate when it comes to swings. But I just could not help myself not getting Apple. There was just a bunch of strong push. There was just a very strong push into the previous all-time high, and it was just an opportunity I had to get. One of the biggest things I love chasing is not chasing, but I like taking advantage of is short squeezes. And the funny thing is, when any stock or any market, especially tech stocks, are near all-time highs, you always have idiots who keep on trying to short it. And because there's people who are trying to short it, that means they're going to be, if there is a strong push to the upside, the short squeeze is usually pretty huge. So that's why I got Apple calls. The setup was great too. The candle ended up pretty great as well. The only thing I was like very worried about before the market closed is I did not want Friday's candle to print similar to, let's say, this July candle all the way here, midway in the year, right? If it went like, if it closed like this, then there's a high chance that it would repeat again what it's been doing. And then luckily it had a stronger candle compared to all these other three candles we have over here. So that's why I entered Apple calls. But now I'm going to move over to Raytheon, which is another trade that I posted. But actually, JP was the one who who told me about it, and I got into it with him. So JP, if you don't mind talking about why you got Raytheon and what you see here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the people that know me, my favorite sector to trade is military stocks and cybersecurity. Um, if it was up to me, I would eliminate my entire watch list and just have Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Tesla, Meta, the Max 7 and Raytheon, Lockheed, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, Palantir, and a couple of other companies. I believe that to be successful at trading, you do have to have the ability to be able to jump from sector to sector in order to do really well. But I also do believe that if you can get really good at one specific sector, you can make a lot of money. Marathon is a company that I've traded. I owned it at $70. I sold it at 82. I hate my life. But that's a different story. Um, I've always been bullish on companies that are able to get massive government contracts. And I always have a signal ready for whenever this setup is about to hit. And when it hits, it never fails. So if you go to the daily chart and you put on, if you're able to turn on some indicators, and because I need to be able to show what it is that I use. If
Yeah,
you can turn
sure.
on MACD, if you can turn on MACD,
Okay. Let me.
and if you can turn on, yeah, well there you go. If you can just turn on RSI and MACD,
Ooh.
and this is to me the most classic of trades that I always take. If you look at RSI, which is going to be at the bottom underneath the MACD, you'll see that RSI, what it did was it came back to test signal, and then it made a move to the upside. And when it made that secondary move to the upside, you could see that MACD there was a MACD cross, and it's right there on the daily. I mean, this is technically, for me as a swing trader, the single best trade that you can take in combination with a hold above the 10-day SMA on the daily. So if you can put the 10-day SMA, which would be, I don't know if you have that indicator. It was, for me, I used the DSMAs.
DSMAs.
D as in David, SMAs by Immortal Freedom. No, DSMAs. Actually, let me just tell you what the name of the indicator is. Sorry.
Yeah, no
It's
worries.
daily SMAs. Just type daily SMAs.
Oh my god. This one? Yep.
By Immortal Freedom. Is that what
Yep.
it is? There we go. So my colors are different, but it's fine. So you can see that the 10-day is below the 20. If you actually want to use, if you want to use my colors, you can do it. You can the 10 is blue.
Okay.
That one is yellow.
Okay.
The 50 is red.
Gotcha.
And you don't need the 200 right now because that's all you need is those three. So you're fine with that. You can turn off the 100. There you go. So
Okay.
what you see here is that we had a breaking close above the 10-day SMA. We had a breaking close above the 20-day SMA. And now you have the 50 on the daily serving as resistance. However, because of that MACD cross on the daily and because we closed above two fast moving SMAs, in this case the 10 and the 20, um, I believe that we're going to be able to break through this resistance that we're building right here at 122, and that we can explode right through that volume gap that, if you look to the far right, you can see that it goes all the way up to 125. Yep. And if we can break through that, and then I think we retest 125, and if we can get above that 125, then we go all the way to all-time highs. For me, this is a very easy trade to make a lot of money on, and I love this is my setup. If you also go ahead and reopen RSI really quick, you can see that there's a trend line on the RSI on the daily, that it's been holding that daily RSI on the trend line. If you collect the bottoms, yeah, that's going to be a trend line break, and then the bottom. Yep, there you go. It's been holding that. It's been holding that trend line. So there's obviously momentum going into this particular stock. Yeah, unlike Kevin, I do have a lot of stuff that I use, which I wish I had the capabilities of trading like Kevin, where I didn't need all of these tools, but unfortunately for me, I need them and it's what works. And this is why I took that trade. When I did take that trade, prior to taking it, I did call Kevin. I said, Kevin, look at the daily look at the daily setup on RTX. He liked it. He got in with me, and then he obviously put that trade idea out. I was very specific with Kevin that I wanted us to have a strong break and close above 121.55 because there was a massive buy order at 121.55 that was being it was hidden, but I knew it was there because we were watching it get filled in parts. Remember, Kevin? Kevin,
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I had to unmute myself.
You
Yep.
Yeah, you remember we were watching it get hit. There was a hidden
Correct.
order. It was
Yep.
1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 500, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and it was a 10,000 order. It was a 10,000 units that were being bought at 121.55 that got hit. And I mean,
It
that's
was a
what was that
lot.
like
Yep.
one? That's like a million and something in
It
money
was a
that
million
went
in
into.
shares.
Yeah, it was like that's $1 million. You know what I mean? That went into that trade, and so someone is bullish. So theoretically speaking, when we talk about the subject matter that this Saturday Takers is about, we now talk about if we're in this trade, what are we going to do next? Well, since we're bullish on this trade and we have time on it, where's my stop going to be? It's very simple. My stop is going to be on a break and close below 120. Why am I using 120? Because if we're able to break and close below 120, um, it's going to push all the way back down to the 118, 115 range, and I don't want to be in any of that smoke. So if come Monday there is a pattern to this trade right at the open and it pushes back and it breaks and close below both the 20-day and the 10-day, that would be where I would be getting out of the trade. And you know what? I'll accept my losses. However, this trade at the close, we were up 20%. And I think at the close, it closed up 16%. So to me, this is a great swing, easy trade to take. And you guys can actually see the setup that I saw and why it is that I took it, because all of the parameters that I utilize in order to take a swing and all of the confluences that I need to be secure about my position were hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when JP called me, and one thing I did actually like was the weekly chart, because you had a really nice wick to the downside on the weekly, and you can sit here and say, "Oh, but wait, Kevin, there's a head and no." I mean, there's a weekly chart. First of all, head and shoulders usually need to be spaced out. It can't usually be crunched as much as this, right? You need some time between, just like you see here on the left shoulder. There needs to be time here on the right shoulder. That's when I've seen the head and shoulders actually work out pretty consistently. But here, we have a really nice wick to the downside, representing that buyers were able to push the price up, and the daily just looked nice. As JP was saying, we had a trendline break, which I really liked as well. And near close, we saw the orders come in for approximately over $1.1 million worth of Raytheon shares. uh, yeah, for if someone was asking where we saw those orders, you just see it on level two. Not level two. You see it on level two, and you see it more on the time and sales, right? Because time and sales shows the shares that were purchased and bought and like what time and what price. So that's where we saw it. And obviously, it's really great to have whales who are thinking the same way with you when it comes to certain trades. So that's why we were looking at the order flow as that came in. But
Yeah, that well,
yeah,
that was also one of the things that I wanted to say, right, Kevin? Like,
go
when
ahead.
we take these type of trades, um, and I see these setups, I'm not sitting here saying I'm blindly taking them. I make a lot of phone calls, and Kevin gets mad at me. He's like, "Oh God, who are you calling now?" I say, "I gotta go." Right? So I start calling people. I'm like, "Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Do you see the same thing that I'm seeing?" Because I want to have Kevin's confirmation. I want to have my mentor's confirmations. I want my mentor's friends to also say, yeah, this is good. Because then when I have a lot of people that are seeing it and they're like, holy shit, okay, there's now I know that if I'm seeing it and I'm just a schmuck in Palm Beach, there's institutional traders that are seeing the same thing, right? So when I say, okay, this is my setup, this is my daily, these are the swings that I love, rest assured that when I'm calling Kevin for a trade like this, and I know that there are hidden orders and we're watching them get hit on the tape, it's almost like it gives you that extra assurance that you actually know what you're doing. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, it's just it's funny. I was actually laughing right now because I have no problem with JP calling me, but this dude will be like, "Oh my God, Kevin, look at like for example, he'd be like, look at Siri," and he'd be like, "Look at the daily. You know what? I'll call you right back. I'll be right back." I'm like, "Oh my God, I know where this guy's going." This guy always calls, but I mean, hey, he finds a good setup, so I guess he has the right to doing that now.
Well,
It's
the
just
thing is that
funny.
here's the thing, right? Like when we're taking, because these are setups on a, this is not like a, when you look at a setup like this, it's not a setup that you're saying like, oh, you know, we're taking it in the middle of a range or something. No, it's like all of my tactical indicators are telling me this is a trade. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no,
And then
absolutely.
everything for me has to have substance. Why
Yeah,
am I taking this trade? How big is my position? am I seeing the tape getting hit hard by the buy side? Are other people looking at the same setup? And does the trade make sense in the times that we're in, right? Instability in Europe, instability in the Middle East. I don't care about the ceasefire in Israel and Lebanon. I don't trust anything that's happening. At any given time, anything can go haywire. And it's always like Kevin has always told me this, and I refuse to believe this. I refuse to believe it because I didn't want to be a huge conspiracy theorist, but then I became one. Um, Setups like this happen normally when something is going to be followed by something, either news or something bad. So I'm not hoping that anything bad happens, but I feel like maybe this setup is also in correlation with some news. But yeah, that's the Raytheon trade.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What was I gonna say? Yeah, unfortunately, price usually does depict if news or something is gonna come up, and there was unusual flow into Raytheon, so there is that. But JP, was there any other tickers you wanted to talk about, or did we go over? Would you want to
Well,
go
the
over what
only thing
everyone
that I'm
else?
swinging, of course, is RTX, and then I'm not even going to discuss about MSOS. And then I have one additional ticker that I've been really watching
Mm-hmm.
that has been on my eye since I want to say 2 weeks ago. And then we did take this trade, and it was a really good trade, which was NEE, Nextera Energy.
Did we talk about this last week? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it last week, but I'm keeping an eye on Nextera Energy again. Um, I'm seeing the we did catch that pop and it was great because we made some money on it. But from a from a from a candlestick chart pattern setup, it's starting to look like a head and shoulders. And I want to see if
Wait,
we're
what?
able to get up above 80.45. Because if we don't, I think we could have some downside and come right back down to that neckline somewhere around the
Oh,
God, where would that neckline be?
you're talking about this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, then the neckline would probably breach, knee will probably breach 789.93 and then reject from there if you're
Yeah,
looking
and
for
then the
head and
neckline is
shoulders.
where's your neckline in the 73 range? No, lower.
68?
68?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that for possible rejection off 80. And if it fails, then look for puts. But if it breaks up close above, I have a very specific level which is 80.41. I'm gonna be looking for 80. I'm gonna be looking for all time, not all time highs. I'm gonna look for 86 as my next target, and then possibly going to all time highs and going to $100 a share at some given point.
Yeah, that's funny because you guys, well, JP, you know that I always use fibs all the time, and it's always funny how fibs always align with the levels that work out the greatest, right? And you said 80.41, right?
80.41, yeah.
Yeah, there's a fib level at 80.42, so
Oh, I mean that my 80.41 is just the level that I have charted out. It's just clear as day. You can see it. I mean, it's you just go to the daily, look at those tri tops right there. You can
yep,
connect the dots. See?
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
So
So
that
is
I'm
that
gonna be
yeah,
watching this with a hawk's eye, dude.
yeah? I mean, energy. We've already talked about why JP especially is bullish on that, and he has a valid thesis
On
behind it.
utilities, I'm bullish on utilities, not
Okay.
necessarily energy, utilities.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So, was there Duke is related to this, no?
Yeah, Duke Energy is another it's called electricity provider.
Correct. So, yeah, I remember last week we also talked about Duke. Do you personally favor NEE over DUK?
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, because it's the heaviest held institutional utility stock in the XLU,
Interesting. Okay.
if I'm not
Um
mistaken, unless that changed.
I'll tell you right now. In XLU, wait, XLU?
It also NEE is the heaviest one that's traded when it comes to volume.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me see. Yeah, knee is the Duke is third
Yeah.
biggest holding. So okay, yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, and then you know what? And then you know what else? I'm sorry to cut you off because you were
yeah.
bringing up Duke. I feel that the price action on Duke, because it's a little bit more expensive, obviously the volume is less. The spread on those options are wicked, bro. I
Oh my
hate it.
goodness. Yeah, it's funny because Randy here, he's one of our friends, and he's taking these Duke trades with me. I know a few of you guys have as well. The setups are always there, and it's so weird. The way the contracts are work is like, for example, since Duke is at 117, let's say the 121 call is like $3, and then the 121 is like 25 cents. Is like, wait, what? Hold on. And it's just weird. Like the contracts like don't move great compared to NEE. So I get you there. I mean, I definitely see that.
And then I want to end it with this because I know that we have such an important subject to talk about, but both you and I, we were pretty adamant about Oxy. And,
Correct.
you know, I took, listen, it's not a big position. I mean, like $5,000 worth in shares, 6,000 to be exact, in shares. And I was hoping for at least a break to 55. And I just sat on there for 2 days watching my shares go up minimal. I mean, I was up at any
Yeah.
given point. The most I was up was like $40 on a $6,000 position. And I was like, screw this, man. I just closed it on Friday. It's not doing anything. And I want oil. I want to be so bullish on crude. I want to be so bullish on it. It's just a dog. It's a dog. It's not doing anything. It's simply not doing anything. And
Yeah.
listen, Oxy, Devon Energy. Devon made a little move, but then it rejected. XOM, it's just a dog.
The um the funny thing is I actually entered shares. I think it was around the same time you entered shares, JP, and I got like a 5079 fill. And the funny
Yeah.
thing is, like, I got a great entry. I got on this candle right over here on
Good.
November 20th, and I think you got the same day as well. And we were
Yeah.
both aiming for this trend line to break, and the second it
It
approached, it
doesn't
just had
break. It's
this,
never gonna break. It's
yeah,
never
it
gonna
just
break.
completely tumbled off. So
Never gonna break.
yeah,
And you know
no,
what's
I feel
funny?
you
Look
there.
look at Devon Energy on that one day that it did pop
What's the ticker?
on that Wednesday
Well, what's the ticker?
when it DVN,
Oh,
Devon.
yeah,
Look at that. What a trash candle. Like if you were in shares at 37, it popped all, I'm sorry, at 36, it popped all the way to 38, and then look how it closed. Inverted hammer followed by a disgusting red candle, right? This
yeah.
just again bearish sentiment on oil. It tries, and just doesn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, like, you could always get a brief understanding of how the oil sector is looking at by looking at XLE. Yeah,
Yeah,
XLE, and yeah, you like this rejection was just nasty on Monday, November 25th. So we'll have to see. If XLE can reclaim 96.66, that's a different story, but I don't know if it'll really break that point. So it's funny because a lot of people thought that energy will gain attraction with Trump becoming being elected as president, but it's been kind of the opposite. So we'll see how this goes. It's interesting to look at the energy sector. It's definitely more news oriented, so I kind of try to stay away from it. But yeah, one stock I wanted to talk about. This is more for before we go into the tickers you guys requested, which again you could post the tickers you want us to look at in the main chat. We got rid of the Ask Us channel. We just have one main chat, so you could put it there. Uh, but one stock I personally like a lot for long term, especially, is ASML. It's a different. It's basically a semiconductor company. I forgot. It does something very specific, and its clients are Intel. I think it was AMD, and one other company that's pretty major. I forgot what it was, but I mean I personally like this setup. I mean, this thing has been consolidating. Even if you go to the line chart, it looks prettier than the candle chart. You're holding crucial points here, right around the 659 area, and we're talking about all-time high being all the way up near $1,100, right? Granted, I don't think it's gonna reach all the way to all-time highs. Wow, you did not hear that. I don't think this is gonna reach all-time highs. That's not what I'm aiming for. But I personally bought shares. I think I got it. When did I get it? I got it. I think I got it on Tuesday. I need to check. I got it on Tuesday, so I'm up a little bit, Tuesday or Wednesday. But I want to at least test 851, right? The current price is 686. So if anybody likes shares or who like diving into companies or fundamental analysis, I would say, in my personal opinion, one good stock you could possibly look at is ASML. So um, yeah, I personally like it. It's a Dutch company, and JP here loves Dutch companies. So yeah, but
Oh, wait, before we move on,
yeah.
let's talk about the NVIDIA trade that we took.
Well, you took
Well,
that trade,
the
the
one that I,
Forex
the one
trade.
that I, yeah, the one that I put out, which is a great trade. So, NVIDIA, this was such a, I mean, I hate to say this, but like
Don't say it.
you almost, you almost feel, you almost feel like an ass when you don't take these trades because you're in fear of like, oh my God, it's gonna break, it's gonna break, it's gonna dump, it's gonna dump. And sometimes you just have to say, like, listen, we're holding a level. What's the worst that can happen? It can happen. So on was that on what day did I take that trade? Was that on the
Thursday.
Tuesday?
I thought you took it on
No,
Thursday. No?
no, the market was closed on Thursday.
I'm dumb. So Tuesday heading into Wednesday.
Was it Wednesday that I took the trade and
You're
it
right.
rolled
Yeah,
into
correct.
Friday?
Yep.
So I saw Nvidia holding this 131.80 range, and if you go to a smaller time frame, um, oops, I just got out of your screen. I don't know what the hell I just did. What did I just do? Oh no. Uh, where's
JP's a
Flavor
dinosaur,
Regan?
so
Help,
give him a
help,
second.
Flavor Regan. Where's Flavor Regan? Uh, yeah, that 131.80, that 131.80 range. I was watching it, and I have that same trend line that you're in, right, that you see right there. So around
Yep.
132.50, I was talking to one of our friends, Amar, who's some people that didn't hear, and they know Amar. He goes by the screen name of Trujan. Um, we were looking at the 145 December 20 calls on Nvidia, and we bought those contracts, and I think it was $1.43 or $1.42, maybe $1.44. I can't really remember. And we went along for the ride on this. That was once we broke above 133, um, this thing was just not stopping. And those contracts closed up 30% on Wednesday. On Friday, when the market opened, the contracts, because there was a gap up on Nvidia, it gapped up to, I believe it was around 136 something. I can't really remember the exact price. And we were up about 40 to 50% on those contracts. And I was a little bit hesitant because I was thinking that there could be a rejection off this key level that I also had, which was, I think, 136.70 something. I had a key level there that we just couldn't get above, but finally we did. I did take a trim at 55% on my contracts, and my one runner I actually ended up putting a stop loss at 75%. I didn't put a stop loss, I'm lying. I closed it at 75%. I thought I was in more contracts than I was. I ended up closing it at 75%. Those contracts went 100%. And it's funny because once those contracts hit 100%, you can see that Nvidia had a little bit of it basically just hit a top, and then it just started coming back down, and those contracts ended up closing only up. I think it was about 60%. but I was really happy that we were able to swing that NVIDIA trade into Friday and have such a great return on it. The funny part is that NVIDIA is still bullish, and with that daily candle close that we had, there's still momentum to the upside. So for me, even though that wick is a little bit weird on the Friday, I still think that we can get above that 140 range, and then we try to retest this 145. So the only reason I closed my trade wasn't because I was not confident in it. I just didn't want to hold going into the weekend. And secondly, since I made such a great amount of money on that trade, I wanted to take profit because I can always take another strike. You know what I mean, Kevin? I can always take another strike, and I can always
Absolutely.
just be in the trade again. So I just wanted to be, I wanted to end the week knowing that I could go to bed without waking up on Monday stressed out. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was a good trade. Um, as JP said, that wick on Friday was not the most bullish thing. But again, it is Nvidia, so dumb investors rule that market. But yeah, so what we're gonna do now is since it's been almost an hour, we're gonna go over a few of the tickers you guys suggested, and then we're gonna head over to the topic exiting trades for a loss. So we'll do that. So what we're gonna go. By the way, you guys could post in main chat, and I'll look at a few. So someone asked for McDonald, Roblox, or XOM. So if I were to pick one of those, I think I'll look at Roblox, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Roblox, because XOM, we already know how the market has been trading on the oil side. So, I mean, just take into consideration that XOM is probably going to be trying to do the same. Although I will tell you this, there was news that came out, and I think it was out of Mizuho, which is a big Japanese bank, that they were looking at XOM as the trade for 2025. But I don't know. Oil is
Okay.
tricky.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. Um, Roblox. I mean, XOM does look bullish, but I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just not a huge fan of news-oriented stocks. You know what I mean, JP? Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Roblox is a really nice stock. If you guys remember, we had Roblox calls for earnings. Those went amazing. Those went like 300 or 400% when we got them. I love Roblox, not the game itself, but I love the stock. The weekly chart is just really nice. After earnings, you just completely blew right past the 47.84, which you can see is previous resistance here, right? And a really great thing is I love charts like these. Whenever I see charts like this, I remember the greatest thing I could compare it to, which is, uh, hold on. Sorry, I had to change that. Uh, the greatest comparison I can have that looks similar to this is Carvana. Because if you look Carvana on the weekly chart, of course, it's not the exact same thing, but it's something similar, right? And it's not like as if Carvana is a special case or anything like that. Whenever you have stocks that are fundamentally good and not trash, uh, you will always have a peak, and then after that, you have, of course, the dip. And this is where you find consolidation. And then from this point, when it comes to long term shares or even long term options or just swings in general, when it comes to options, it's really great to find that point where it's going to break out of that range, right? Roblox is a great example of a stock that has potential to do that. Why do I say that? Okay, well, we've talked about on previous calls. By the way, this is a new mic, so I don't know if I'm too loud. If I am too loud, let me know. But we've talked about previously. One of the easiest ways. A lot of people have difficulty drawing levels. We have a video on that. You could check our YouTube. But if you don't want to spend time learning about that, one of the easiest ways I found drawing a level is just by going onto big time frames like the daily or the weekly, and you would just look for areas where it's rejected in the past multiple times and it's broken past, right? So for example, that would be anywhere near 47.72 for Roblox, right? Because you could see it's rejected multiple times here, here, and somewhat over here, and definitely over here. But now the fact that we've broken above it indicates that, the bulls are pretty strong. Does not mean it will propel all the way up to like $100, but the thing you want to keep an eye on is the retracement, right? It's really healthy typically whenever price retraces back to a level that it broke out of. The reason why this happens is not like just coincidence. Of course, the big holders that have shares, let's say all the way down from $26 or even all the way up to $40, they're taking profits at 53, right? But they never fully take profit. What they do is they reduce their position of their stake, and once it comes down to the level that they're looking at, which is usually again the prior resistance that turned into support, if there is a valid bounce off of that level, that then turns into something called, you could call it whatever you want, but an easy term is just called confirmed support, right? So when you get a bounce off of this, that indicates that buyers are present at that area, and there's a higher probability for the trend to continue into the upside. So that's what I love looking at. Again, very easy thing to look to do. You can even, I've done this in the past, even day trading. You find a resistance that it's rejected in the past, but it finally broke above. You wait for it to come down and retest, and if it bounces off of it and it shows and there's buyers present around that area, usually I would get into calls. So for Roblox, right? I went on a rant there, but hopefully that helped out. Uh, Roblox is great for shares, in my opinion. I personally am going to be adding on Monday. I completely forgot this stock existed this past week. I was just way too busy. But I have been having my eye on it, which is funny. So I don't know why I didn't take it yet, but I'm glad I'm not too quote unquote late. But I do want to, like Monday, I'll be looking at where exactly it opens. Especially if a really great thing would be if on Monday you have a candle where it comes down again around this area and it still ends up wicking to the downside and pushing up. If that's the case, I would more than love to get into shares because that even shows further proof that there's buyers present. The only reason I'm saying that is because you could see the past 3 days, Friday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, they were not relatively strong to the bullish side. So it shows that sellers are present. So I'm not fully invested in this move just yet, at least at this time. But I personally like Roblox for long term because this has room all the way to $81. If you look at fibs, and if you want to look at a passive target, you can enable the 38 level, and you could see the passive target would be $67.32. So if you're talking about Roblox's shares, I think it's a really great option. Really great option. When it comes to options for Roblox, you always want to be a little bit careful because their IV is pretty high. Usually, I don't know
Super
how it's
pumped.
been,
Super
huh?
pumped. Super pumped on the IV.
Yeah, so you might want to be a little bit careful on that because especially after earnings, there's been a lot more bullish sentiment and a lot more predicted volatility. So when it comes to options, if you want to take that, I would say it's very important to make sure to get timing right. That's exactly what I would do. So that's my thoughts on Roblox. What's yours, JP?
You know, I really like Roblox as a trade. I mean, everything you talked about is valid. We were talking about Roblox earlier during the week. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, I know Roblox is great, but if we're going to be trading any gaming stocks, and you know that I have a gaming's watch list, it's Unity.
Oh my
I,
God.
I
Yep.
just, yeah, I mean, it's more volatile. It moves really well. But I think Roblox, I don't know enough about the company or enough about what it can potentially do for me to give my advice on it other than just technical patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely respect that point. I like that JP brought that up because it's always important to trade stuff that you know, whether it's fundamental analysis or technical analysis. If you're, it's one way I got really efficient is by trading a certain stock over and over again. That's why you see like my success rate on Meta and Tesla is, abnormally high because I took time to study them and see how they react, right? Similar to fundamental analysis, if you don't know a company, is it really a great idea to get into trade for it? Maybe not. So, some things to consider.
Stuff on my watch list, right? Like a lot, but I only trade about 7 things. Sometimes I think that I have too much stuff and maybe I should just erase it all. But I only trade about 7 things. You know, but I only trade about 7 things. Sometimes I think that I have too much stuff and maybe I should just erase it all. But I only trade about 7 things. You know, but I only trade about 7 things. Sometimes I think that I have too much stuff and maybe I should just erase it all. But the way that I have everything broken down, I have it by sectors. So I have an energy, nat gas, utilities, all that stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I don't like giving advice on companies I know nothing about.
Well, not advice. You mean your opinion? Wink, wink.
Advice, like my
Yeah.
theories, if that makes
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. But well, someone brought up a great point. They said maybe you can sell puts on Roblox, and I personally have been doing that. I love selling puts on Roblox. They're very volatile, and I always sell the strikes for where I don't mind getting assigned at. So I've been selling the 45 and the 40. I don't know if I've been selling the 50, but I definitely know I've been selling the 45. If you guys don't know about the wheel strap or selling puts, again, we have a video on that. You could feel free to check that out on our YouTube channel. But the next stock that we want to talk about, which JP will have a lot of things to talk about, is Intel. What's your 2 cents on Intel, JP? Before I talk
So
about it.
we were in that trade. I really wanted it. I really want Intel to fill that gap. Can you do me a favor? Can you go to a 30-minute?
What? Oh, 30 minute. Okay.
30-minute chart, yeah. There's this, and then yeah, there's this massive gap that I wanted to fill. It's not massive, but yeah, it's pretty decent size. Can you see that little space? I can't really see what you're saying. It's like that. It's like up to that $25 range, I think.
So here.
Or am I? Yeah, there's that right above that. Yeah, is that 25? Is that 24.70, $25 range? Is that what that is?
Yeah, but there's no gap
I
here.
don't know. Wait, why am I? Why is my chart different than yours?
Is
Why am
my
I not
colors throwing
seeing?
you off?
I have a gap on the daily that goes all the way to 28.
What? $28
Yeah,
on the 30 minute chart?
on the daily. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said 30 minute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're saying all the way up here.
Yeah. I
Oh,
said the massive gap. I don't
okay.
know why I said
Yeah.
30 minute. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
that
yeah.
massive gap that needs to get filled. And I need a break and close above this 24.73 level that I have, and I
Uh-huh.
think it just goes. I'm very bullish on Intel. I know it's a dog. It just got a $7.6 billion grant from the government. Nothing. It does nothing, but it's an American company. They're not going to
Yeah.
let it fail, and everything uses Intel. I think it's only a matter of time before it goes. Listen, I wouldn't mind being in $30 calls for 2026, to be honest.
Yeah, timing is just very important, unfortunately, for Intel calls. That's the thing that sucks
Yeah, the
about
thing
it.
is, the thing with Intel is again, it's such a heavily traded stock right now. It
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's averaging like 30 or 40 million a day. If it dumps, the premiums on calls just get whacked bad, and it's not even like a little bit. It's like a lot. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
So
bullish long term.
yeah, same with me. I mean, on the weekly, you can have two kind of sentiments here. You could say, hey, you had the. By the way, let me know if my colors are throwing you off, you guys off. But you could say that you have a bearish setup here. Because you're having a bear. Technically, you're having a bear flag. But again, it is a tech stock, so you kind of have to wait and see how this plays out. But the reason why I'm personally bullish on Intel, again, it's really not the greatest idea to short American companies because they always end up getting bailed out, especially when they have a very important role in a certain sector, such as BA. But weekly chart you could see here we have a mini bull flag, but again, you do have this technically a bear flag here on the weekly. When you zoom into the daily, you could see it's been somewhat keeping above uh, 24. Where is this level? 2382. But the main important level I'm looking at is 2331, and that's the previous resistance, right? So it bounced off of that on Wednesday, which was a good indication for me. I bought shares on Wednesday itself, so I added on to my position. I also sold, I think, the $20 put for Intel. Nothing extravagant, just wanted to sell that put just in case the stock does come down there. I would really not mind getting shares of Intel at $20. But as JP said, we talked previously about the volume profile, And I mean, you don't really need the volume profile to see how much of a gap is in this area, but you can see the immense amount of, um, I'll just zoom more into a current time period. But once this updates, you could see the amount of empty space that's here, right? So yes, it's having hesitation at this area, but if it can get past 26.33, we can probably see a test of $28, which I thought we were initially going to do actually after we got this bounce off of this area. But we've been a little bit hesitant, so Intel is kind of going, sideways. But actually, surprisingly so, for people who sell puts, it's not it's not a bad stock to sell puts on. The rate of return is actually pretty decent. I think it's over 1%, which is pretty nice. But yeah, so that's my
It's a
thoughts on
dog.
Intel.
It's a dog.
Yeah.
It's a dog. It doesn't do anything. It either dies or it goes. It's a dog.
So next one is IWM, which technically you could look at
Ooh, that's
Russell.
not me. That's all you. I
Yeah,
never.
yeah. I figured this would be a little bit more me, but I used to love trading IWM. Before Tesla Fridays, it was just IWM trades almost every single day. It's weird how my journey went. It was first Apple, then it was SPY, then it was SPX, then it was QQQ, then it was SPY, SPX, and QQQ, and then it became IWM, then Tesla, then Meta. So weird journey, but I've definitely traded it all. Thank God I've had success in it. But I have to say nothing ever beats IWM options when it comes to ETFs. For some reason, it's
Why
just
is
the
that?
way they move. Yeah, they
Why?
first of all they're cheap, right? Most of them are sub 100 $1. So usually contracts vary between 30 cents all the way up to 70 cents on a 0 DTE. And the great thing is the reason why I love it is it actually reminds me of Meta before Meta moved that way. So if the contracts move, if IWM moves in your favor, the contracts actually skip because of the bid and ask. So the contracts actually jump a decent amount. So you could be up like 0%, and then the next second you're up like 15%. So it's really great.
Hmm.
Um, but one thing, unfortunately, is IWM is great only in certain times. It's not great all the time. Uh, Back, like if you guys remember, like a few months ago, I used to trade IWM a lot because it was very bullish. And when IWM is very bullish, one of the easiest patterns I've seen to trade on IWM on, like, let's say the 30-minute or 5 minute, in my experience, has been the falling wedge, which obviously almost all of you guys know about. But, you know, we have had a past weird few days on IWM. You could see a bunch of wicks to the top side, which indicates there is a decent amount of sellers that are at this point. Especially with the, this is my thoughts, and maybe JP can correct me here. Especially with the push in NVIDIA earnings and other tech companies, right? Because other tech companies are becoming bullish or even more bullish, such as Apple, Microsoft, and Google, and of course Netflix, and of course Meta. Once NVIDIA earnings came out and it solidified the fact that NVIDIA is still growing and performing to its standards, I think the small cap stocks started to get a little bit less attention. I don't think IWM is going to come down a lot, but I would not be surprised if it came down to 227.90 and create a double bottom from there. Because if I go to the weekly chart, you'll see here like we touched all-time highs, right? Yeah, we touched all-time highs on IWM this week, and that was after a very strong candle on the previous week. So the fact that we closed like this kind of indicates that there's a higher possibility for downside. You could look at multiple points to possibly look to get in, but I personally would say, a great area would be looking how it reacts to 27.87. But what do you think about the whole small caps? Why do you think they're gaining less momentum? Is it because of Nvidia earnings, JP, or something else?
No,
No.
I
Okay.
think it's people are rotating to high beta again.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha. Okay.
and I mean, if you're gonna ride the Christmas rally, you don't want to be sitting in like some slow mover small cap unless it's like, let's be honest, like Hims and Celsius, that stuff is moving crazy. Unity's moving crazy. Is Unity a small cap? I don't even know. It's probably not. But like, if you're gonna go rah 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 Christmas rally, you want to be an Apple, Google, NVDA, all the big boys, not
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, absolutely. I think you have a better explanation than what I said.
Although him is amazing.
Huh? Hymns?
Yeah. What a
Oh,
what a
absolutely.
what a what a what I'm such an asshole. I
No.
told you that thing was gonna go to $50. And I was looking at it at 13 and 15 and 17 and 22. What is this thing trading at now? Like $40?
No, 32 or
Oh,
something,
man. Oh,
33.
my bad. Sorry. Oh, I was off by a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fix yourself, JP. Oh my goodness.
I
This
really
game.
am. Sometimes I just whatever.
But okay, we're gonna go over a few more, and then we're gonna head over to a topic that we want to discuss. But Rivian, I've not really traded this ever before. JP, have you?
Oh yeah, I hate it. I've never made any money on it.
Okay. Um,
I was long. I was long through that entire collapse, by the way.
wow.
I was long. I was long at 37. I'm sorry, at 40, thinking that we were going to reclaim the all-time highs, and the thing died on me.
Yeah, no, Rivian is a sad story. I mean, you do have a higher low on the weekly, but me personally, one, I can't speak too much about it because I have not traded it in the past. I personally think this is just my opinion, and I know some people will hate me for saying this. I personally think Neo is honestly a better alternative to trading
Wow.
Rivian. One, because for for those who've heard me the past weeks, I'm bullish long term on Chinese stocks, and the last time Chinese stocks had that push up, Neo contracts went ballistic. So it's something I would personally keep an eye on versus
By
Rivian.
the way, Rivian, the only reason Rivian made a move was because of what's it called? They got money from the government.
Yeah, correct. Okay, gotcha. Peloton. This is one of my favorite stocks that I've ever traded. That's below $10, and look at it now; it's above $10. I
Hate
had,
it.
yep, I had this. I bought shares at I think like $3.50 something cents, and I'm up pretty decent on them. Earnings was great the past two earnings, and it's just going, man. And um, I've been a believer in Peloton not because of the fundamentals exactly, but because I always keep on seeing ads, and for some reason I'm not a huge guy who's always looking at Instagram, but every time I go on Instagram I see some video about people having weird nicknames on it. So I'm like, okay, all right, if degenerates are using a app like Peloton, then there has to be at least people who are older who still use this business, right? And I don't know, there's just something about Peloton's chart that's actually very clean for a penny stock, technically, right? Because this is technically a penny stock. But I was always bullish on Peloton, especially last year or so. I mean, of course, I don't know if we'll ever reach back to $85, but I can't also at the same time talk that out of existence because there has been stocks that have just had insane movements. I just would be a little bit careful with this because the IV has increased on it. So, but yeah, like for my shares personally, I'm waiting for this $50 level because I have a really great fill. So $50 is where I'll be personally taking majority of my trim at for when it comes to Peloton. All right, so we're gonna go just over a few more. We're gonna go over ASTS. JP, anything you want to say about it or no?
Wait, this is a Nightingale stock.
Yeah.
I listen. I can't get it up here. When we were talking about it, when it was, I can't. I don't know. I don't know enough about the company. I know that the whole space craze happened and they went parabolic. It's pulling back down. Could you technically say that that's a really big bull flag?
Um. Yes, but at the same time, I mean, I'm long term. I'm bullish on ASTS. I just don't like how it's been unable to even get above $25 the past week. So that was the only
You know
thing.
what I'll do? You
Yeah,
know what I'll do?
yeah.
If it comes back down and retest $20 or 21, right, and it can hold support there, I'll take longs.
Okay, yeah, 2186. That's a good level. Here
Yeah.
for that's what I was looking at.
I
Like,
wouldn't be trading. I wouldn't be trading this right now in where it's at.
gotcha.
Not me. Not for me.
All right, we're gonna go over two more after KO, and we're gonna move over to the whole topic here. But KO, we got these calls.
Got calls. Yeah,
Yeah,
we already caught that one. We caught the
yeah,
move.
exactly. We got it. I think JP, we got it not this week, but last week. Uh,
We got it before the breakout.
yeah, this is what I personally see on KO, and I'm glad it's actually closing a little bit bearish on Wednesday and especially on Friday. Um, if it breaks through, I personally would not want that to happen because if we could get a retracement, at least to let's say $63 or even 62.77, that would be a great area for me to add on to my shares and actually get into another set of calls because then the movement after that will be pretty strong that's what I'm thinking. So yeah, that's what it comes to KO. Again, I'm long-term bullish. We bounced off a pretty important level as we said earlier. Prior resistances that turn into support are pretty important, and that's exactly what KO did. It bounced off of it a few weeks ago, showed the bullish sentiment that's still available on KO. And if you guys don't know, KO is considered as a safe haven or just a recession proof stock. What this means is, pretty simple. If there's a recession, theoretically, stocks like KO would be a safe bet to get into. That's just the saying for it. But yeah, that's KO. KO is pretty simple. I'm in shares as well from a bottom fill. I think I got like 61 or 61.50 or something like that. But yeah, we talked about Apple. We talked about Tesla. Um, we'll go over Uber, and then we'll go over Uber, which is JP's favorite stock. And
Um,
well, JP hates Uber. But yeah, Uber, in my opinion, not really going anywhere. I got calls on Wednesday. I expected. I'll show you exactly why I got calls on Uber, and you'll be thinking, hey, wait, this should have worked, and it technically did. But guess what didn't work? The freaking contracts. So patterns always repeat themselves. There's a famous saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And you go into a 30-minute chart, and you had this level somewhere around this area. I'm just gonna put it here around 71.46. I deleted a level unfortunately, but we had a bounce on Tuesday this past week, and the candle ended up like this, right? And then Wednesday came all the way down, retraced, and it had a similar candle again on Wednesday close. So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm bullish on Uber because one, of course, it's a double bottom, and two, there's a decent amount of space, and it's very similar. What's it called? Pattern, right? So I got into it. The weird thing is, the calls we got into did not have high IV, but even though Uber gapped up, how much was this? Uber ended up going 1.12% on Friday, and the cons did not go past 5% profit, which is so weird. I don't know why exactly that happened. Um, that should have been easily a 30 to 40% trade, but I ended up only I think I only got like 3 or 5% on it, which was insane. I even actually got, sometimes when I'm confident in a trade, I get longer term expirations, which of course you guys saw. I got like the December 13th, I believe, or December 20th for these for the Uber trade. But I also got the December 6th contracts, and those actually did not. Those ended up not even turning green. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened on Friday. That should have been a green trade. Um, what if you're asking exactly what's gonna happen with Uber? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I personally don't like the previous daily candle. but it is holding above 71.46, which is good. So it really depends how Monday opens. If Monday opens with a gap up, then you're going to get the move that I wanted, where you're going to be testing 73.50 and then potentially $75. So that's what I was looking at for Uber. But the last stock we'll get into before we get into the whole topic we want to talk about is let's see. Oh, it was a good one. SOFI. JP. SOFI. What's your thoughts?
Love it. I love everything about it. I told you I have been telling everyone for months and months and months. SoFi is going to be one of the few companies that's going to make a shitload of money going into 2025 because the amount of individuals that are consumed by credit card debt is growing every day at an abnormally fast rate, number one. And then number two, because of the high interest rates that individuals are paying on their credit cards, which exceed sometimes even 28, 30%, they're looking for ways to consolidate their credit. And companies like SoFi give you great loans at a relatively relatively decent interest rate. You can get a $100,000 loan to consolidate your credit for 11 to 12%. Sometimes you can even get it lower. I think they're going to make a lot of money. Love the chart, love the company, love everything about it. We had this trade at around $6 on shares. It already popped all the way to 16, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not even looking at your chart. I'm just talking off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I did want to go long on it when it broke above 10, but I was too caught up on another trade. I missed it. I still love it. I would like to see it have a pullback and retest this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there must be like a 13 or a $12 um area that I was watching. If it can come back down to 13, I have my alert set at like 1350 or like 1340. If it comes back down and you retest that, I will go long. But right now, I feel like I'm chasing.
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you there, JP. I love the chart on the weekly. It's pretty great. You're seeing it hit fib levels at a healthy pace, especially especially with the consolidation we had before, and it's pretty clean, right? We had consolidation, but you create a long series of higher low, and we broke above and we created a higher high from its previous highs. So it's pretty great. I think the level you're talking about is 1386 because that's the level I personally will be entering shares if it comes down to this. In fact,
What
I'll
is it?
actually 1386.
Oh, good. 1386. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have. Just around that general area. If SoFi comes down here, bounces off of this, I would love to get into shares, and I actually will be getting into calls as well because the contracts move pretty nicely on SoFi.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
If you look, um, I mean, it's just you know, do me a favor, because now I'm looking at my chart. Can you turn on RSI for a second and MACD? Okay. Let me explain something really quick. This is a perfect example of why RSI, if you're using it under the concept of, oh, it's above 70, it's overbought, it has to come back down, or MACD is trading above the zero line, and oh my God, it has to come back down. Look at how long SoFi has traded in the overbought range and not come down. Look at that. It's just been hanging out above, 65, 70, and it's just been trading above. It's now, I think, at 83. This is why whenever you talk about like, oh, I'm gonna try to trade divergence or overbought or oversold, just because something is overbought or oversold doesn't mean that it has to come back down. It could literally just hang out there forever. And SoFi is a perfect example of, since October 14th, we've been hanging out in the overbought category, and it's now November 24th, and look at where we still are, overbought. So, yep.
thank you for adding that in, JP. That's a very valid point. I'm glad you got across. because a lot of people misuse the RSI. So when it comes to the overselling and oversold and
Yeah,
overbought.
just because something is overbought or oversold doesn't mean it has to go the opposite direction. It could hang out there forever.